So my name's Alecia Henry, 28 years old. I am a high school teacher, teaching both dance and religion. Definitely a huge passion of mine. Outside of that, I absolutely love baking and then just hanging out with friends. I got a really good group of friends who are very accepting of everything that I go through. So I was 15 when I had my very first seizure. My best friend and I, we decided to fast track history in summer school. My program that I was in high school didn't allow us electives in grade 9 and 10 because the program took up those electives. So we decided let's fast track history to give us an elective in grade 10. Woke up that morning to get ready. Last thing I remember, I was getting like a curling iron to get all set up. And then next thing I know, I'm in the bathroom and I've got my mom and paramedics in front of me. All I know is that my dad found me on my bedroom floor, passed out. And so they took me to the hospital, did a couple scans. They were suspecting seizure, but they couldn't give an official diagnosis in the moment. The CT scan that they did showed a little spot within my brain. So they decided, okay, we'll do an MRI. Unfortunately, MRI did not happen immediately. It took a couple months. It was a bit of a time period of uncertainty. They said, it could be a tumor that we're seeing. It might not be. If it is, that's probably what's caused the seizure. So after a few months, finally I had the MRI and it came back as just simply a water pocket. And they said, a lot of people will have these water pockets in their brain and they don't know. It's completely harmless. We just know because I had a reason to have the scans done. Took 3 months and 3 specialists, though, to give me a final prognosis and then just to kind of say, all right, we're going to monitor from here on out. 2 years later, when I was 17, I ended up having another one, which is when they officially diagnosed me with epilepsy and they started to put me on medication. So we played around with a bit of medication, did have an effect on me in terms of my energy at first, and then my body eventually adjusted. When I was in university, we still weren't sure what my trigger was. We knew lights didn't affect me. I had many EEGs done that had confirmed that. And then I want to say it was probably in my second year of university, we figured out that my triggers were lack of sleep and stress. So it's now been a time frame of ensuring that I'm getting enough sleep, managing stress, whether it's personal life, whether it's work, just kind of ensuring that I'm not pushing it in any way. And then now I've moved on to another neurologist, but him as well as my previous one, they've been really good in the medication with ensuring that down the road when I want to have a family, the medication is not going to affect any kind of pregnancy or affect the baby in any way. So I've had some really good support systems through that. And we managed where I'm now just over 1.5 years seizure free. In a sense of if I was feeling off on a particular day, I had to kind of ask why I was feeling off. My seizures are nocturnal. So I don't have them when I'm awake. If anything, it's when I'm asleep or in that time period of just waking up when you're still 3/4 asleep. So if I wake up and I'm feeling off, I gotta, did I have one? I have to kind of figure out, is my stomach upset? Have I bit my tongue at the inside of my cheek? Because that's also very common for me. I don't have convulsions, but my body will stiffen. I've woken up with a black tongue before or just a cut up mouth from biting down. So I kind of go through those things. And even in the beginning, I didn't really think much of it or kind of kept track of it, but my parents would notice these sorts of things when I was talking, and then it would make sense as to why I felt off. So as I figured that out for myself, then I kind of started being able to advocate and, letting those around me know, okay, I might be a little off today. This is why. When I was in my 3rd year of university, I had one in the middle of the night. I'd gotten up to go to the bathroom and on my way back, because I was still in that haze of sleep, I had one and I ended up hitting my head on my dresser. I still went into school the next day. Being in the dance program, we had to be there. Attendance was a major part because it was a physical program and not just simply studying. So I went to my prof and I said, just want to let you know, this is what happened last night. And she looked at me, she goes, okay, have you seen the doctor? And I said, no, I don't normally see a doctor. I'll give them a call and let them know I've had one, but I don't follow up with it. And she goes, did you hit your head? And I said, I think I did. It's a little sore. And she goes, okay, I'm not letting you dance. You need to recover and you need to get checked out. Turns out I had a concussion. So following through and just kind of figuring out why I might feel off that day and advocating for my health in that way, I've had a lot of people actually lead me down something that I might not have known at the time. But then I've also had a lot of people who have been very understanding about it too. Even though the training aspect of it can be stressful, especially when you get closer to a performance state, it was something that I was very much able to release everything in. It was like a step away from whatever was happening. And especially when it came to maybe like the academic side of things, whether it was in high school, whether it was during my university years, where maybe I've got an exam coming up and I'm just studying nonstop. When I got into the studio and I was dancing, it was like I was focusing on that. I wasn't focusing on the stresses that were happening outside of it. Bit of a release, I guess. In the beginning, I lost quite a bit of freedom, with the uncertainty of what happened and what triggered it, those sorts of things. I couldn't even walk down the stairs without somebody watching me, because if I had one while I was walking down the stairs, somebody would have to be there immediately. I couldn't be home alone. And especially as a 15-year-old, that's a difficult thing because you're just starting to gain some freedom within your life. I turned 16 and I wasn't allowed to get my driver's license yet. And a year after that, roughly, is when my neurologist cleared me because I had gone 6 months without one. Then got to the point where I had my G1 and all of a sudden I had another one. So I had to lose my license. That was on a medical suspension. So I reverted back. I gained a little bit of freedom, reverted back. Now I was taking the bus everywhere. So that did have an effect in terms of the feeling of freedom I got. Those who were around me, though, they didn't see me in any other way. They just knew that I was me. So in that aspect, nothing had changed. Once we figured out that my seizures were only nocturnal, whether I have one or not, I don't lose my license. I'm perfectly fine, of course, because I'm not driving while I'm sleeping. If I were to have one during the day, that's when I would lose it again. But my medication is really good with controlling them. The one that I had just over a year and a half ago, it was due to lack of sleep. I was at a wedding and up from 6 a.m. till 3 a.m. So it definitely didn't help. But I live a fairly normal life, especially to some stories that I've heard in terms of how some people can't even work. And, some people can have 12 a day. And so I'm really lucky in that sense. I'm able to live a normal life. There is still, however, just a little bit of uncertainty in, a time period where I'm up doing stuff really late or I've got a lot going on at work. It's like, okay, I've taken my medication, but will I have one? I don't know. I've been very lucky when it comes to stigma and misconceptions. Nobody has ever outright directed it towards me. I have heard people around me say it, and in the beginning, I wasn't very comfortable with stepping up about it. I was still learning myself, right? 15, 16 years old, very tough period in general, and then you add this whole lifestyle change and learning something that is very complicated. So I wouldn't really say much unless it was in something like I would take first aid trainings all the time with my job. Plus, it's just something I feel is really good to have. And so in those situations when they would start to address epilepsy, I would say that, it's something I've experienced. And then I would get questions thrown at me, but nothing was ever, talked down upon. As I got older, then I got more comfortable speaking up about it. There was an experience that I had in university. A friend of mine had a panic attack, and he had a physical reaction that caused him to pass out from it. And somebody around who knew nothing about epilepsy and knew nothing about panic attacks had made a derogatory comment. And I just looked at him and I said, first of all, that's not what happened. Second of all, you need to educate yourself before you're talking about these sorts of things and jumping to conclusions. And he just kind of looked at me and wasn't really sure what to say. And then eventually he came up probably about 10 minutes later and he apologized because he actually understood where he had been mistaken. But in the overall aspect, I've been very lucky with nobody making direct comments to me and nobody putting me in a stereotypical category or anything like that. So surgery is not an option for me. My seizures involve my entire brain, not a section of my brain. So that's just kind of out the window. In terms of medications, like I said, started on a low dose. It's increased over the years. I'm also on 2 different ones. And because my seizures are nocturnal, my dose in the evening is a lot higher than my dose in the morning. And I know that if I miss my evening dose, the chances of me having a seizure increase significantly for the night. But it's not really something that I have kind of let go. I have an alarm on my phone. So even when the days that I sleep in the morning, it goes off. I wake up, I have my meds beside me, so I take them and then I can go back to sleep. And, at night, I know I have it. And even when I'm going out, and I'll even have my friends look at me and they're like, your alarm's going off. Have you taken them? And I'm like, yes, don't worry. I've got them in my bag. I'm about to go have them out. So they're really good about helping me with that. And for the most part, like my body's adjusted. After the first, I would say probably couple months of first being on medication, my body adjusted really well. And then I think I've been on this official dose for probably about 4 years now, maybe 5 years. But prior to that, it was a lot of like playing around and figuring it out. So definitely trying to break stigma and stereotypes and misconceptions. It's not something that people focus on heavily. Like you always hear about breast cancer awareness and prostate awareness. And, while those are great things to be aware about, there's a lot of things in our world that do need attention that don't get it. Being a teacher, I have this platform with my students, and teaching high school. I've got students from 14 years old to 17, 18 years old. So it's such a big platform where I can start educating people when they're younger. So that way, when they are out in the world and they're not taking all of these misconceptions with them, it's a nice place to do it. So last year was the first year I did an awareness day. I worked on it with my grade 10s. And, I tied it into the curriculum because being a religion teacher, we talk about how we treat people in our world, right? And so we tied it into that and they got really involved in it. And we separated into 5 groups. One group did a research on what epilepsy is and what a seizure is. Another one did different kinds of treatment. And that can involve the daily treatment. That can involve how to help somebody in the moment that they're having a seizure. We did stereotypes, statistics, and then of course the one that everybody wanted to do was celebrities. Because they look at all these celebrities and they see their careers and it's like, oh, well, I want to do what they do. Or you enjoy their music, you enjoy their films, but then who are they? And so through that research, they've actually found out, Elton John, Lil Wayne, of course, who is very big, like they have it. And then they had no clue because they just saw them as the celebrity. They didn't see them as the person. So, and of course, being the generation that they are, they all know about Cameron Boyce. They know that he had a seizure and died, but they don't connect that his seizure was not specifically the thing that caused his death, rather what resulted from the seizure. And so then they dive a little bit more into that and they find out, his whole story on that aspect. They've even talked about Prince and, Prince's experience and then how he ended up being seizure free. So they've really dove into it, and then we work on making announcements leading up to March 26th, and we even put together fact cards where they, if the group was doing the celebrities, it was a little fact card on 1 or 2 of their celebrities. The statistics group would do a fact card about statistics, and we'd hide them around the school. Students would find them and bring them to me. They had a little fact that they could now learn, and then they got entered into a raffle for a prize. So that was really successful last year. I decided to do it again this year, but step it up a little bit, and we did a fundraiser. So I made a whole bunch of cupcakes. We sold them on lunches. There's a online game kind of a quiz game that I use in my classroom, and a lot of teachers do, to prepare their students for tests. It's called Kahoot. And I did that at the end of every single lunch. And the top 3 winners of that, they got a prize as well. And we managed to raise just over $200 for Epilepsy Canada. So we're going to be donating that. And then I've had students come and ask me more questions, and I had teachers ask me questions, and like, hey, like, how come you're doing this? And then I would tell them my story and how I want it to continue, because there's other teachers in the school that might have it. I have students who have it, and their classmates don't know that they go to school with people who have it, but then now they're at least aware of what it is. I think by doing this, it's made me more comfortable with sharing my story, and then realizing how much people don't know, and then knowing that I am doing something. Even though it's a little something, it's still going to have an impact somewhere. 1,000%, yes. It's something that a lot of people struggle with. Some on a small scale. Like I said, I'm very lucky in how much of a normal life I can live. But then there are some people who can't work, who can't live alone. They do have service dogs, right? And, while things such as service dogs are great, things such as medication to try to manage it, and, doctors are great, is there something more we can do? And so when we raise awareness and we do fundraise for it, we start to find out more information. And then we break stereotypes and stigmas. And then can we find a cure like down the road? Maybe there might not be one in the next 5-10 years. Maybe there will be. Maybe even in my lifetime, there might not be. But eventually, we might get to that point. And if we can get to that point, it's going to make the lives of millions of people a lot better, and give people their freedom back, and give them the ability to do something as go to work. Whether it's for a 4-hour shift, whether it's an 8-hour shift, like, people who work, we complain like, oh, I got to get up early tomorrow, or I got this meeting, I've got this. And then some people are, I wish I had that. I wish I could go out and do work, but no, I'm relying on a disability pay. And then there's all loops that you got to go through that stuff. So if we can raise awareness and we can fundraise, we can break the stereotypes and stigmas, and then we can work towards finding a cure, not just on a surface level, but that can go for everybody who has epilepsy, no matter the kind, no matter, what their triggers or any of it is.